Welcome to Steel City Growth. I'm your host, Bill Ildenfritz. Each week, we'll explore the passions, expertise, and experiences of business owners and founders in the greater Pittsburgh area. Steel City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, committed to providing exceptional services to meet all your business needs. Let's dive in. I'm very excited and honored to chat with my next guest. He's not only my jiu-jitsu professor, but also someone who's consistently teaches me valuable lessons beyond the mat. I've had the privilege of hearing him speak before, so I can guarantee there'll be some real gems in today's conversation. He's an entrepreneur who has spent 25 years running his own business. He emphasizes the balance between body, mind, and spirit. He encourages his students to better themselves in all aspects of their lives, not just physical. He's an instructor with over 30 years experience in the martial arts. He's the owner of Team Bundy Jiu Jitsu. And most importantly, most students say he has gray hair. Jim Bundy, welcome to the show.
That last statement couldn't be truer. Good to see you, Bill.
Good to see you, sir. All right, Coach. So you ready for the first question here?
I am.
All right. What is the number one most important strategy for growing your business?
Number one. So this is year 26 for us in the martial arts business. And all of the paths that I've been on, all the people I've spoke to, all the ups and downs that anybody in business can have. Number one is the people you're around. You have to be around winners. You have to be around people that are winning in the way that you want to win. So we hear these terms in the self-help guru space, like find your tribe. 100% a fact. And so everybody wins different, right? Everybody's got their own path to success. And it's really a matter of finding the right tribe for yourself that is succeeding how you want to in whatever industry you're in, and that you can align with them. You have to align with them in terms of how they're trying to succeed, right? So in the martial arts business, it's super important for me to be ethics and integrity based first, money second. And I'm not saying that there are guys that I know personally that he's money hungry, whatever, but that can happen in any industry where that particular business owner puts the dollar sign first and the other thing second. For myself, I want to be aligned with integrity-based martial arts school directors that have learned how to win and provide for themselves, their family, the staff they want to grow. They have more impact in their community because they're succeeding at a higher level. So number one, what's your industry and where are the winners at? And of those winners, who can you align with where you can see the world how they see it so that you feel comfortable, you feel really comfortable and excited to follow their advice?
That's excellent. How do you develop these people? Because I've seen you do some things. How do you develop these people to be like you?
So in terms of staff or people helping and things like that?
Yeah, like your leadership. Yeah, or people helping you.
Yeah, so the biggest lesson I've learned over time is go for personality and person first. And if they are coming at the world from a good place and they have a good soul and good integrity and good enthusiasm in terms of they love helping people. If that person has a passion to help others better, in this case, the vehicle through the martial arts, then you can give that person tools. You can't give someone sincerity. You can't give them passion. You can't give them, the ability to want others to win even more so than they want themselves to win. So finding the right people in terms of person is number one. So how do I look for talent? I watch how people interact with other students that are in their class. How do they behave when they're a training partner? When a new guy has joined the school, Do they go over to those new students very frequently, if not most of the time, if not all the time, to help that newer guy get his uniform straightened around, or be his partner on that guy's fourth class? They saw the guy, he wasn't sure who to partner with, so they ran over to him and trained with them. When you start identifying those individuals and you see that's a pattern of who they are, now they're on the list of, okay, as time progresses, if I empowered that individual with real skills and tools, they could absolutely be a rock star in terms of being an instructor and so on and so forth. So number one, personality, person, where they're coming from, what are their goals, how do they treat others? When you got those in line, then you have the ingredients to help them be a world-class leader.
That's excellent. I really like that for sure. How about mistakes? Have you made any mistakes picking people?
No, that's an absolute no. So here's the most common mistake. It all first starts with self, right? So I use a phrase a lot that I've learned over time, and it's, you have to be a leader worth following. So the first step in growing a staff is not growing a staff, it's growing yourself. If you are not trying to develop yourself into a world-class leader as an individual, I'm leveling up my mindset, my skill sets, how I look at the world, how I behave in the world, how I talk to people, how I treat people, how would I lead people. So if you're doing that, then people naturally want to be a part of what you're doing. They want to be a part of your organization. So the number one mistake is, I've always developed myself. I've been on that personal development chain forever, but a lot of maturity and wisdom had to go along with that for me to build myself into really becoming a person worth, following. Now you piggyback that with the most common mistake in the martial arts industry. I can't speak to all industries, obviously, although I have lots of friends in business, is we hire out a need, and then we just grab people that seem to do well in the martial arts classroom, and we think that that's the secret sauce. Well, that guy's really good at martial arts. I need some help. Let me try to see if I can get this guy to assist me. So it's having this very surface level leadership quality within ourselves, number one, and then picking surface level qualities in people that we want to try to help us out in our business. So those are two of the biggest mistakes. I would also say that tied into that, when you don't have a clear vision of who you are and what you're trying to accomplish as a school owner or a business owner, and what the big picture is, you're a chameleon all the time. You're changing your mind all the time, and therefore changing your processes and your systems and what you think is important to do within your business. And having that chameleon effect just sends you on a roller coaster all the time. So identifying who you are, what you want to accomplish, what type of business that you want to be a part of. Because I've seen, Bill, many times over the years, I've done this myself, because you did say it's my mistakes, but I've seen it in others, is a business owner starts growing a business, and then they don't like it. They don't like the business anymore. They don't like the people that they ended up hiring. They don't like the processes that are in place. They put maybe a little bit too much focus on growing it and the financial side of it, and listening to people that, hey, do like this and you'll be able to grow your business more effectively. Well, if I don't know exactly who I am and what I'm trying to accomplish, and what, in my case, what type of martial arts school I want, then I'm taking advice from people that I shouldn't be, doing things that I don't want to do. And then you end up not liking your school. And you can have a job any place and not like it. If you're going to have your own company, shoot, the only way that you're really going to get fulfillment is you love where you're at and what you do and the people that are around you. So those would be my top ones. Not developing myself into truly a world-class leader, not knowing who I am, which is piggyback to that, and the vision that I have for what kind of martial arts organization I want, And then therefore, the people that decide to help you out, that's all over the place. So you can't be a chameleon. You have to have a vision. You have to be a leader. And then, in my opinion, I think the rest just kind of falls into place. People start wanting to be around you. They're attracted to your leadership. They're attracted to the direction that you're trying to go. They're enthusiastic about the mission that you've laid out for the company, and they want to be a part of it.
I totally agree. 2 points I'll make is when I was nursing home administrator, yeah, we would, hey, she's a great nurse. Let's make her director of nursing. That doesn't mean that goes all the way up there. And the second thing is some administrators would say, hey, you're succeeding, Bill. What are you like? And they can't be me. I can't be you. You have to develop your own strength and vision and know what you want. And obviously you can take ideas from other people. I know you do that. Take ideas and make yourself a better person, but you can't copy exactly somebody else.
Absolutely. And when it comes to, and we talked about this the other day, you and I, Bill, when it comes to helping, getting people around you that are going to be on your team, right? And I've heard a million successful people say this. It just took me forever to figure it out on my own, which is I don't want a bunch of me's. I mean, the world has enough issues with just one me. So I want people to be them. They just need to be extensions of me, right? The best practices, how you're treating people, enthusiasm, but everybody has enthusiasm and excitement in their own way. I'm typically, as you well know, firecrackers, and I'm a lot of fuel. And everybody's just not built that way, but that doesn't mean they don't have enthusiasm, and that doesn't mean they don't have sincerity. So it's really a matter of picking people that actually have skills that aren't as good as mine, and they complement me, not crash into me, right? Katie, who works at the school, hyper organized, put tabs on things, list like this, do like that. You don't have to micromanage a thing that girl does because she knows where everything's at, when it's supposed to be there. And that is the opposite of me. I am high energy fuel, but I'm chaos. I don't know where things are at. I don't know where I put something. I don't know where that guy didn't get called because I didn't write it down. So my intention is pure to do these things, but my brain doesn't shuffle in an organized way. So by bringing people into the fold that help me be a better me, and by proxy, them winning as well, that was the common sense thing that I couldn't wrap my head around. I thought, I need other high energy people teaching. Well, yeah, I do. But what if they teach with their enthusiasm in their own way, and I give them tools to be great themselves? Well, wouldn't that be neat to have a school with a bunch of really cool teachers that had their own unique flavor, but all came from the same source?
I totally agree. I was always told, put their aces in their places, and you surround yourself by good people, or put the right people in the bus with you. You'll be very successful for sure.
Yes, sir.
I know you read a lot, sir. What are some of the things that, help you develop? Reading, what kind of authors, what do you look to do to develop yourself, sir?
I'll give you categories. I still do. I used to do it more where I was really doing a lot of books. I do them all on audio. And I'll give you a few that I think are kind of my top ones, but I typically stick in categories, business, of course, sales, marketing, leadership. The big categories that I feel I know I need to keep my mind on. One name that really comes to mind for me is Jocko Willink. I think that anybody who is in business needs to have someone to kick them in the pants. So anything by Jocko Willink, I think, is fantastic reading because, he was a Navy SEAL. He's got that gruff, disciplined military look at the world. And it's a tell you how it is kind of thing. And so there's lots of people you could get into for motivation, Anthony Robbins, all those kinds. I think really what I typically do, especially nowadays, because you can be on YouTube and whatever you like, the algorithm figures it out and they start, shooting you, videos. I think I like the word category a lot. Pick a category, let the internet talk to you as you're searching through that category. Find people that you connect with. Like Tony Robbins is not for everybody. He's got that kind of in your face energy that attracts me 100%. I absolutely know that somebody could maybe not be into that. But once you pick a few little voices, I have a habit that if they bring up a book, like let's say a guy's talking and I'm like, oh, I really like what this guy's kind of saying. Oh, I just read this book. Well, then I just pause the video. I go into my, my book purchasing app, technical term, and I just buy it. So when it comes to books, if I pull up my little my list here of my library, just so that way I give you an actual answer. One of the more I really liked this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. That was something newer that I really enjoyed. I like anything by Tim Grover, who was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's personal trainer when they were succeeding very, very highly. Studying companies like Starbucks and different things like that was, there's a few books that are in that category. Those are just a few of the top ones. I really think it's just a matter, again, of once you start getting into the world of searching for positive information, you'll start finding people to latch onto. 1, 2, 3, not 50. You got to find just a few voices. You can get everything from any book, right? But again, everybody's got their own little vibe of how to look at the world. So that's why I like categories. Because if you pick up a book like Atomic Habits, I couldn't imagine anybody not wanting to have better habits. If you pick up a book by Jocko Willink and he's talking about leadership or discipline, I can't imagine anybody not wanting to have more of that. But if a guy says, hey, this is how I built my company and these are the ways that I built it, well, that may or may not be for everybody. I think an attribute or something you want to enhance within yourself, if you find that category, then you can try to find some books and some education to bolster those little pieces of the puzzle.
I agree. And I know you say that's about sometimes the timing. Sometimes you're telling me, hey, you're teaching me a technique or a strategy, and you've taught me several times. Maybe you're just not in that space yet to hear this.
That's so true. Because as we grow, we're in different headspaces, and what we need to learn is different at that time. So someone could recommend a book, to you, and you go, oh, it just doesn't apply to you at your level of where you're at, right? If someone gave me a book, or if I did read these books on growing your team or building a staff, it's not that looking at that book when you're a one-man show is unimportant. It just doesn't speak to you right then. You're not there in your headspace as a leader, so it just doesn't apply. 6 years down the road, maybe that book flings itself and you're like, oh man, I'm ready. Now I'm ready for that. So and I personally and I'll use the word listen because I don't read books, I listen to them. When I find good books, I re-listen to them. It's kind of like martial arts, right? Like you only really need a good handful of skills, that you can rely upon. But the real secret is trying to get that mastery level thought process on those basic things. So if there's a book that I got a lot of value from, I'm going to re-listen to that book. And that's true in multiple cases in my library. Because to your point, what you just said earlier, if I listened to that book 3 years ago, well, I have 3 more years of developing myself. I re-listen to the same book and I hear it completely different because I'm now in a new spot. And that guy said the same stuff 3 years ago. The book didn't change, but who changed? I changed. So now I get even more out of that book the second time. I get more out of it the third time. I get more out of it the fourth time. So It's not so much even finding multiple books, it's finding like a couple books that speak to you and revisiting them, especially when you never get like in that spot where you feel like you just need a little bit of a spark. You're not sure exactly what you're missing. You're just a little bit of a lull. Well, why not start with something that sparked you a couple years ago or a year ago? Start there. Maybe you can put a little bit of fuel on the fire.
I totally agree. You know what I find amazing is obviously I started jujitsu 8, 10 years ago with you. You know, that's all I came for, right? Was jujitsu. But what's interesting is jujitsu and business has a lot of connections, a lot because some of the difficult challenges you're in jujitsu kind of go to business. And that's some of the things you've talked to me about and you know, a couple other people, a couple other students are with us. You know, there's it seems like there's like an intercorrelation to jujitsu and business. What's your thoughts on that?
100%. And it's why jujitsu attracts company owners and business owners and leaders. I mean, if you look at like now jujitsu is becoming more of a, the thing, right? You see a lot of, Mark Zuckerberg and all these guys getting into jujitsu, and you go, well, why is it so attractive? And this style specifically is getting a lot of traction. I mean, I started in Taekwondo in the 80s, right? And not that there's absolutely anything wrong with people doing Taekwondo, right? I know a lot of really good Taekwondo practitioners. I know a lot of school owners who have fantastic Taekwondo schools. So I'm not comparing it in that way, but it's an interesting thing that martial arts has been around for so long. And as jujitsu became more of a, oh, what's jujitsu? That guy's doing it. It became more like this thing being talked about, let's say, culturally. Well, karate has been a catchphrase for how long now, right? Since the Karate Kid days in the 80s. But you didn't say Fortune 500 guys go kung fu fighting, though.
Right.
They're all doing jujitsu. So then that's an interesting question. Well, then why? So I would say number one, people see the real effectiveness of it. I like to call doing jujitsu the 1% extra confidence that confident guys need. Because if I'm training myself and doing really challenging things, now, of course, in our school, challenging is relative. It's safe. It's educational. No one's injuring you. But the reality is you have to challenge yourself as you progress through the art. You have to train with your partners as you progress, where you're resisting each other and seeing how moves work and how they don't work in real time safely. But the reality is you have to put the rubber on the road as you progress down the line. At the beginning, we don't do that. You just learn the skills. But as you progress, we have to train with each other and try moves on each other and see what happens. And so there's a whole litany of things that happens as you start working through that food chain. At first, you're like, wow, this is great. I'm learning techniques. I'm getting a great workout. But as you start really getting into the nooks and crannies of training with partners and fully resistant, buddies on the mat and the dynamic of that, well, number one, you're starting to see yourself different. I mean, most business owner guys, I know some are into fitness, some were athletes, many were not. Many guys that get into business never did a sport all through their whole, school life, high school, whatever. And now they're doing something physically challenging. They're growing their fight skills. They start to see themselves differently because of that knowledge they're acquiring. And so the first piece of the puzzle to say, well, why is everybody doing it, or how does it relate to business? Well, in a negotiation, you don't do that at all, do you?
All the time, but yes, I hear you.
The most confident person wins. Would you agree?
100%.
The most confident person wins. Now, I'm not saying this in some kind of crazy talk way, but you're a jiu-jitsu guy, so you can relate. Like, if I know I can choke you, I look at you different.
Correct.
And so I might be very confident from my business life and things I've accomplished, monetarily speaking, what have you. But there's this extra 1% you get when you know how to fight. If it's a female, and she's, small female, and she's in a negotiation with a male, man, like she knows how to really do techniques on dudes because she's trained with guys. If it's a guy, especially if it's someone who wasn't athletic in his life or coordinator or any of those things, man, like he's just martial arts makes you stand different, makes you walk different, makes you talk different. That's why it's so great for children too, right? Because fights don't happen typically when I don't look like a victim. And so when you sit down at a conference table, you're not in your mind. I mean, I won't speak for you, but I don't feel you look at a guy and go, yeah, you better say yes or I'm going to strangle you. Like that's not what you're thinking, but your body just behaves different because you do those things. Now you couple that with the fact that training specifically in jiu-jitsu where you're doing a grappling and you're wrestling with people and you're stuck in these precarious positions. Now you are stress testing your mind every time you train, right? In jiu-jitsu, you can get pinned underneath of the guy. You learn how to survive him, defend, escape, and so on. But in the process of doing that, it's terrible. You have a grown man holding you down. He'll let you out if you want, but you're training and he's holding you down and you can't move. And there's this level of panic that's going to get into any of us. Our ability to calm our mind in chaos is why business people love jiu-jitsu, because you know as well as I do, if you own a company, it is chaos. I heard a business owner on a podcast or in a book sometime. He said that he was going to a doctor and he was filling out his sheets and it said occupation. And he said, I almost wanted to put down firefighter because that's what I do all day. I fight fires every day, right? You know how it goes. You wake up, you have your coffee, you get a text. You go on to lunch, you think it's a good day, you get that call, and it's not going the way you want. Now, how we react to those issues when they punch us, and they punch us multiple times a day most of the time. When I was a newer business owner, I always thought to myself, Bill, man, I can't wait till I just don't have these problems all the time. Maybe I'll get good enough and my business will be successful enough where I'm just not so stressed every day and these problems keep hammering. When I came to the conclusion, rather, that that's how this goes. And if I don't like it, get out. Like if I can't handle this, then that's not how you're not going to succeed. And jiu-jitsu, by nature of how you practice, is you have to get in your brain all the time. All the time. Would you agree? And you got to calm yourself down. Okay, man, like I'm okay. This guy's on top of me. I can breathe. And you learn how to talk to yourself in your head. You learn how to manage stress, chaos, frustration, anger, right? You train, you have a good session, you felt like you got some moves. You come back the literal next class, and it's like you don't have a brain. You have two left arms, and you're cross-eyed. And you don't know what's going. You don't even know what happened. Like, what happened? Like, I had such a good session on Tuesday. I felt like I did some okay things. You get the same guy even on Thursday. Falls apart. So not even just being in class, but in between classes, right? Like we question our sanity. And doesn't every business owner do that? Like
Yes.
you're like, oh, I had this great session. You come back Thursday. Oh man, what happened? You're like, why do I keep going there? Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm up and down all the time with how I feel about my skills and my training and my this and my that. And this is a lot of stress. And that's a business owner's life in a nutshell. Like, how many times you wake up in the morning and go, why don't I have a regular job? Like, this is stupid. I should have a regular job. Like, it's dumb. I told somebody yesterday they should have a business. I lied to them. I completely lied to them. They should not have a business. It's the stupidest thing that anybody's ever done. And then by the afternoon, you're like, nah, I got this. I'm going to solve that problem. I'm going to do this. And you turn to rah-rah, man, like 3 hours later, right? There was a book. I can't remember the author, but the title was something along the lines of like Business Roller Coaster, right? And that's what he was talking about. That's the business roller coaster. That's jiu-jitsu in a nutshell. It's challenging physically, mentally. You're put in situations where you have to constantly navigate chaos. You have to learn how to talk to yourself, get yourself in the right way where you can snap out of something bad in your mind and focus on something good. And if that isn't a recipe for success for a business owner, I don't think I've ever heard one.
I totally agree. And I will tell you, everything you said very eloquently. I just don't actually, I'm blown away as I continue to do my jiu-jitsu journey, how much of a connection, correlation between the two. Because I know you tell me this all the time, is sometimes you're stuck in that position and you just need one more breath and one more breath. Okay, well, that relates to jiu-jitsu. But there are times, we'll use your example, you're in a heated negotiation, and you need to calm yourself down and just take that one more breath and calm yourself down. And you end up winning the negotiation because of the things you learn in jiu-jitsu to calm down, relax, take that breath, and move on to the next thing. And like you said, the confidence, because you're right. I come in some Thursdays and I feel really good driving home. And then the next Thursday, I'm like, I have never done jiu-jitsu in my entire life.
It's so true. Our ability to control our mental state is a superpower where you can get your brain and turn it like a switch to what you want it to. That's what jiu-jitsu does for us, right? Is I'm in a bad spot. I got to get myself calm. I'm getting a little hyped up. I'm getting a little too anxious. I'm burning too much energy. Nope. Got to do this. Got to calm down. Got to get myself under emotional control. So you said a good word, heated. You get in a heated negotiation. You want to get heated. Well, how professional is that? You know, how well are you going to react when you're in that moment? Got it. I'm going to get my own head. I'm going to work myself straight. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to get one more breath. That skill set is a superpower. I have not seen anything like jiu-jitsu to give that to a person.
I totally agree. Totally agree, sir. Let's change topics just a little bit. What is one challenge our listener community could help you solve?
Tell everybody the value of doing jiu-jitsu. Because I believe in my heart and soul that the world is a better place with more people doing jiu-jitsu. Now, that doesn't necessarily and specifically mean at our academy. I'm going to use the term a good professional martial arts jiu-jitsu academy. The world is a better place with more people doing jiu-jitsu. Schools are a better place with more children doing jiu-jitsu. The workplace is a much better place with your boss, with your coworker, with everybody doing jiu-jitsu. So if I had a magic wand, I watch people transform, Bill, as you well know, and you've seen it. You've seen it within yourself and you've seen it within classmates. People transform. They start from a certain individual and they literally, like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, transform, and it irradiates not just to them, but there's a massive ripple effect when one individual gets better as a person through jiu-jitsu. Their family is now better. Their friends are better because they're better. The people they come in contact at the grocery store are better. And look at how massive just one human doing jiu-jitsu, everybody they touch now has a better impact. Now, if you keep amplifying that, how is that not good for the world? So that's the challenge. Is I want everyone who would listen to this podcast to find and understand how valuable jiu-jitsu is for your life and let everybody else know about it.
I like that. I really like that. I really actually like that, Coach. So the first half show, we kind of learned from you, Coach. The second half, let's learn a little bit more about you personally. So take me back in time when little Coach Bundy, did you know you'd be running and growing a company as you are now?
No, I grew up in a very financially poor. I didn't say emotionally poor. My mother was very rich in terms of how she brought me up, the um, life lessons and character education she instilled in me as a young man. Watching my father, who was a steel mill worker, for U.S. Steel, of course, they all shut down. So he no longer had an occupation, right? So, but I learned work ethic by watching um, how important it was for him to make sure that he provided for his family. And that was just what you do. And you do whatever you got to do that. And if that means work this, that, and the other all day long, go to sleep, get up and do it again, well, then that's what you do. So I grew up very rich in those terms. But in terms of financial scenarios, very, very, very poor. So nobody around me, I mean, most people had, let's use the word, had more money, because as a kid, you kind of get a feel, right? You kind of know what's going on. You see what other kids are wearing and what cars your buddies' parents are driving. I never felt bad about myself. I never felt, like, oh, woe is me. You just kind of got a feel for where you were in the world. And that was that. Um, so even though other families might have been doing better, in terms of, what their parents did for work or whatever, there was nobody in Girard, Ohio that I knew or talked to or engaged with that were success people. It was just guys that went to work, like my dad, like you went to work, you made your paycheck, you paid your bills, you tried to provide for your family, you watch a football game on Sunday, and it's absolutely nothing wrong with any of those things. It's a great life for millions of Americans. And I don't mean to demean that. I'm just saying that I didn't know anybody who was going to start a business, run a business, try to be this next level type of human. And when I was lucky enough that my martial arts instructor, although he never quite figured out how to win for himself, he was very he was awesome in the fact that he was at least ambitious that way, and he exposed me and other people that were helping him teach to people that were higher level thinkers, martial arts business people. He introduced me to Tony Robbins. I had no idea who Tony Robbins was. So even though he never figured out for himself how to get to that winning spot, he did expose me to winning. And so as I got exposed to winning that, and remember the first thing you asked me, and you said, hey, how do you get successful? What would you say? Well, it's the people. And you don't even know you're not talking to the right people. Like, how would you know? You only know what you know. You only know the people that you know. So if you're not around certain conversations, how can you know there's any other way to look at the world? So the answer is no, but that's the big picture. Once I got around martial arts business owners that were winning, that happened in my early 20s, by the way. And once I started listening, and everybody thought I was crazy, by the way. So that's the thing that people have to understand. Like, when you don't grow up around people that kind of think a certain way, and you want to and you start to, you're literally like, what are you listening to? What is that garbage? Why are you talking like that? Why are you going to that place? Like, that's nuts. Well, it's not their fault for thinking that way, because they only know what they know. They don't know anybody who's done that. You're trying to do it, and they just think that you're wasting your time. And in fact, I actually feel that they're trying to help you, because they think you're on some fool's errand. And so there's a rough patch when anybody's trying to do like this, and doesn't make these people bad. It just means you're trying to get around other people that think different, and there's some friction there for a while. So it wasn't until all of that started to happen that I caught a glimmer. But I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't really see the full light till well into my 30s and into my 40s.
Nice. Very nice. Well, I will speak as your student, as one of your students. You have a great academy for sure.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Let me ask you a couple of rapid fire questions, kind of like 1 minute answers. You ready for like 5 quick questions?
I'm ready.
All right. How did jiu-jitsu change your life off the mats?
A sense of peace that I didn't get from any other martial art that I did.
I like it. I like it. What is one thing you wish every student understood on day one?
Their life will be different forever if they don't quit.
I like that for sure. All right, here's a little weird one. What's the weirdest thing someone's ever said while being choked out to you?
I can't speak for others, but I have been stupidly of my own dumb ignorance choked out twice.
Yeah.
And when waking up, where am I?
Yes. Weird experience for sure. How about this? What is a white belt mistake you still make sometimes?
Going too fast.
Yes, yes. And then how about this one? Do you think some people should never get a black belt?
No, I think that everybody should get a black belt, because if we define black belt, it's a unique individual journey, not one that we need to stack up against everybody else in our classroom. Black belt is an accomplishment of personal excellence.
Excellent. Totally agree. Let me ask you this. I was even planning on asking this, but I'm going to ask this for you. You have a very unique thoughts on testing for your belts.
Yeah.
And I will speak for myself, and you can feel free to use me as an example. I'm nervous as heck and everything else, but when I get done, it is probably one of the greatest accomplishments I have felt. So tell me a little about that process, because it's different than other martial arts owners, I think.
I think so too. I mean, there are some academy owners that I know that have their students go through a testing process. I always did. Master Sauer always put us through a testing process for our new belts. But I'm unique, Bill, because I've had multiple different versions of my school over the years, because I wasn't always just a jiu-jitsu school, right? I started off as a Taekwondo student. When I took over the school for my instructor and then eventually bought it, it was still a Taekwondo school for a while. Then I started mixing styles. A lot of schools did that once they saw the UFC. They started mixing styles, but it was very hodgepodge, like learning this, boxing, this, that, the other. So for a long time, I had a kind of mixed program of my own little hodgepodge creation. Eventually, I got a little more into the MMA stuff, and then we spiraled into being more just kind of a jiu-jitsu program. But what I learned from being in the traditional arts, as they like to call them, the taekwondos, the karates, there was always a testing process for those arts. What I learned is a test does two key things. One, the preparation is what makes you great, not the actual test day. Two, it's the experience of the day that I think is something I would never want to rob a student of going through. Because especially in jiu-jitsu, you only get a handful of belts, right? It's white, blue, purple, brown, black. And my thought process is I want a testing process to feel transformative, inspiring, motivational, accomplished. I want you to feel like you've done something special for yourself. And so there's an element to our tests at our school where, of course, there's technique portion and you have to spar and train and show your moves. But there's an element to our test that we call heart and conditioning. And I akin this to, I've always had a strong affection for those in the military. I never did serve. I've always had a strong affection for how special forces operate. I've spoken to a handful of special forces guys throughout my martial arts career. But the way the Navy SEALs do their process, and I won't lay it out because I certainly can't speak to it as an expert, but generally speaking, you have this lengthy process to become a SEAL. And there's a process at the BUDS training where you can leave at any time, right? You can put your helmet and you can ring the bell and you're out. And the attrition rate is very high. And there's only a small percentage of guys that get through that and become a SEAL. And the way that I look at that, Bill, is I can't speak to obviously what and how they do things. But my perception is this. Barring things I can't control, injury or whatnot, if I'm a SEAL in my head, you can't make me quit. Like, you can't. Like, I was a SEAL before I got here. I'm going to be a SEAL when I leave here. And my perception is that process puts people through enough physical and mental strain where if you didn't really want to be a SEAL, if you weren't a SEAL in your soul, then you're going to ring that bell. And I can, although our tests are certainly not like Navy SEAL training, but that heart and conditioning portion, the whole event, the rallying of your teammates around you to encourage you, it's what you want to show yourself who you really are. And that testing process isn't just about skill set, because of course that's a piece. I know from, my fighting that I've done in my life, martial arts competition and MMA and that kind of thing. It's knowing you can count on yourself and know you'll get off the floor that one more time, and knowing that you've got what it takes in here and in here to go. And in a safe environment, mind you, but a challenging one, I want that student to understand that. I don't want our students to have to go fight or compete. I want them to know who they really are inside. I want them to have an experience where they get to see they're capable of greatness if they just choose to step forward. So a testing process to me is one, you got to prepare for it. In any fight that I ever had, the preparation is what makes you better, not the fight day. The fight day has been taken care of. It's the preparing, the extra exercise, the sharpening of your moves. You're developing real skill and preparing to show someone what you got. So that, number one, makes you 100 times better of a martial artist, because you're preparing to show someone that you deserve or earn that rank. And then the actual event day, it's designed to be transformative. So you get to be around your peers that are supporting you and energizing you. I want students to remember that for the rest of their life. Like, I remember my blue belt test. I remember my purple belt test. Dang, I remember my brown belt test. And it's something you can carry with you. It's experiential that you can't copy that, right? You have to go through it. And I want that person to walk out of that test going, I am proud of me. I use phrases like, don't earn your belt, take it. Right? So if you walked into your test in your mind, that new belt, I know my skills, I'm in shape, I know I can spar train, whatever. And it doesn't matter how many push-ups or this or that or whatever he makes me do, I'm not going to quit. So he's going to have to give me that belt. So I look at it as take it. And what a great metaphor for business or life or whatever we're doing is, if you put in that amount of effort, if you show yourself who you really are, we all know the just don't quit adage that's all over every place. Well, show yourself that you just won't quit. Your back's against the wall. You're completely exhausted. Maybe you're getting back so sick. You're like, all right, man, I'm going to do one more. And there's a lot of people, Bill, that have never done that in their entire life. They've never been pushed that hard, physically, mentally, in their entire life to see who they are. Or maybe they were and they quit. And so now they get an opportunity to redefine themselves each and every time they go for a belt. And that is the number one reason why I love our TB, our Team Bundy test days, and they'll always be around.
Yes, I will say, I started jiu-jitsu again, get in shape, learn techniques, get a little more confident. But again, because of all the things you just mentioned, it just correlates with business. Like, taking that brown belt test, many times I did want to quit. And a couple of things kept me going. Number one, I didn't want to give up. I was going to get that brown belt. And number two, my classmates cheering me on. I remember Jared. I know you know Jared, but I'll mention him. He's a bigger guy, so probably a bigger voice. But I heard his voice a lot of times yelling, come on, 30 more seconds, 30 more seconds. And I remember a few times when you were challenging me, we'll say, I was like, oh my gosh, but I kept hearing it. Come on, just a couple more seconds. But again, this comes in business, because when I get frustrated now, I'm getting challenged now, I'm fighting that third fire of the day. It keeps me going, keep me motivated. So jiu-jitsu has changed my life, not only in jiu-jitsu, but also in business for sure.
And I've seen it, Bill, firsthand. I've seen you develop in a lot of miraculous and cool ways. So great job.
I appreciate that. All right. So last question for you. If you can go back in time and meet yourself the day you founded your company, what advice would you give yourself?
Don't get distracted.
I like that.
Don't get distracted. You're never going to figure things out, this, that, and the other, ups and downs, all of that. Just don't get distracted.
Yeah.
Stay focused. Stay on task. When you start feeling yourself getting left to center, get right back on center. Don't get distracted.
Very good. Very good. So, sir, how can we connect with you? If people want to learn jiu-jitsu and stuff, how they can connect with you?
If you're looking for information, teambundymma.com. Of course, you could always schedule a free orientation, learn about the school. You could try beginner class. We partner all new students with one of our coaching staff to make sure they have a world-class experience on their first visit. You can follow me on social media, of course. Best one is Instagram's the easiest. Coach Jim Bundy 1 on Instagram. You can reach out to me at any time with anything. And hopefully you like the kind of content I put out.
Yes, definitely. Well, Coach, I want to thank you, one, for being on this podcast. Two, obviously for the business knowledge, but I'll even speak personally for a second. I appreciate you helping me in my journey over these 8-10 years. You've taught me a lot, business, but also jiu-jitsu. So I can tell you, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure, brother. You're an awesome guy. You're an awesome guy to have on the mat.
I appreciate it. I want to thank the audience. If you learned something today, laughed, please tell somebody about the podcast. Again, Coach, thank you so much. This has been another exciting episode of Steel City Growth. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Steel City Growth. Thanks for joining us. For show notes and more, visit steelcitygrowth.live. Steel City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, offering expert guidance in buying, selling, and valuing businesses to help you achieve your goals. Until next time.